Hello, I'm Roger Bisbee from Skill Builder, and I just want to have a little rant really about the situation which has arisen that I think is probably worthy of a little bit of comment, and that is the problem of building inspectors and building inspections. Now, some time ago, Margaret Thatcher privatised the building inspection process. She allowed companies to come in there and compete with the local authorities to undertake building inspections. Now, this might have seemed like a good idea, but basically a lot of people could see the flaw in it. Once you've hired a company to do your building inspections, you hire a private building inspector. If that building inspector is a little bit too pedantic, a little bit too exacting, if they make life difficult for yourself, as a company, you're going to move on and find somebody else who's a little bit more amenable. Now, this has led to problems in building inspections because the big housing companies have private building inspectors who are basically policing their work. So they're with the best will in the world, if those people are just a little bit too awkward, they're gone. Now, those contracts are worth a considerable amount of money. If you think of the big builders and you think of private companies doing those building inspections, that comes in hundreds of thousands a year. Now, Persimmon Homes, who come in for an awful lot of criticism, I mean, firstly because they paid their chief executive a bonus of £75 million, and now they've gone through the £1 billion mark. They're doing very well as a company. They have had a recent incident where a house caught fire and the fire spread through, and it turned out that there were no cavity fire stops in the house. So between the houses, if you like, where you would normally have a fire stop, the timber frame building, maybe with brick cladding, the fire was able to just pass along the cavity, spread literally like wildfire. And this problem also occurred in a block of flats which were built with timber frame in Worcester Park in Surrey, where the whole place caught fire, and within 5 minutes it was a complete, it was gone almost. It burned so quickly that everybody had to rush out, and luckily they did, because unlike Grenfell Tower, where they trusted in the system and waited for the fire brigade to come, these people thought better of it, and they thought, let's get the hell out of here, and there wasn't a single life lost. But the problem again was due to a lack of barriers, fire barriers, cavity barriers, which would stop the fire moving from building to building, if you like, or in this case from flat to flat. On paper, timber frame buildings work well because they use double-line plasterboard, and they use fire stops, and they use intumescent seals around cables and pipes. But we know all too well, us builders, that a lot of these things are badly done and they're not checked. So this problem with Persimmon Homes isn't exclusive to them, but apparently there are other properties which are suffering from the same problem. Now, the problem now, of course, is how do you find out? You have to actually go along, drill holes, put in cameras, and have a look to see whether those fire barriers have been installed. And, they check the eaves, but they didn't necessarily check the rest of it. So it's down the cavity, around the windows, all these kind of places, as they found with Grenfell Towers. The fire can spread very, very quickly along the outside of the building, let alone the inside. You may have fireproof plasterboard and things like that on the inside, but once that gets out through a window opening or something, it's along the cavity in no time. Now, there are stages in the build which are crucial, but they're not inspected, and putting in those fire stops may be one of them, putting in the intumescent seals may be one of them. So to a certain extent, there's a reliance on the management on the building site, the clerk of works, the foreman and people like that, to actually go around and physically inspect these jobs. Now, I know only too well that on a cold day, a lot of those guys hardly move out of their porter cabins. They get very, very comfortable inside those offices with a heater, and they rarely venture out to have a look at what's going on. So here's a suggestion. They could actually use technology in the form of mobile phones to photograph and upload, as they do the job, all those stages of the building. So if they put in fire barriers in a building, they can actually record it, just take a photograph, it'll give the location, and upload that, and that way a building, every single stage of a building will be recorded, and that would be incredibly useful because anybody buying that property will be able to check that series of photographs and check all the work has been done properly. From the surveyor's point of view, it's a tremendous benefit. From the point of view of the NHBC or anybody else that's giving the warranty on those buildings, it's also a benefit. And also from the buyer's point of view, it's a benefit because they can say, right, I'm going to buy that house, and these houses aren't cheap. They're going to put a considerable amount of their life's earnings into buying a house. So to know that it's come up to standard and they haven't got all these headaches. And don't forget, when these houses are blighted by this kind of thing, people think, oh, don't buy them, they catch fire too easily. So it can have a major effect on the people buying the houses. And if you're a young couple, you're just scraping together the deposit for a house and you're struggling to pay the mortgage, having that kind of stress, you know, you bought a house and you find there's a major defect with it, is not funny at all. So that's just a suggestion. Let me know what you think below, because I really would be interested. I mean, the other thing is we've got to look at these house builders like Persimmon Homes and all the rest of it, and we've got to admit that a lot of their profits have come from the government's Help to Buy scheme. And that's you and I, that's the taxpayer who's paying that money to allow people to get their foot on the property ladder. So if it's taxpayers' money that's swelling the properties of these companies, we really ought to have a say in how that's spent and how that's managed. So I'm Roger Busby. I hope you found that of some interest, and let me know if you've got anything to add to that debate. I'd be interested to hear it.